Welcome to part 1 of my video review of Man of Steel. Now, for my loyal Facebook followers, part 1 is a somewhat revised version of the review I posted on the Facebook page back in January. I thoroughly enjoyed Man of Steel. I thought it was very captivating, having me on the edge of my seat for most of the film. The film brought a new and refreshing interpretation to some of the more common elements of the Superman mythology. Man of Steel had a lot of firsts as far as Superman films are concerned. It is, of course, the first Superman movie where he does not have the red briefs on the outside. Now, for those who don't know, that style harkens back to the outfits worn by circus acrobats in the 90s that were more common when Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster created the character back in the 30s, and on which the original outfit was based. So while I'm more of a traditionalist as far as the outfit is concerned, the change does not affect my perception of the movie, although I do wish the colors were a brighter and more classic tone. This was also the first Superman movie where Jor-El and Lara did not die together, Jor-El being murdered by Zod before he was sent to the Phantom Zone. It was also the first Superman movie where the launch of Kal-El's ship was not at the last minute. In most other adaptations, the final quake had begun before Kal-El's ship was launched. Also, in contrast to other films, Clark did not join the Daily Planet until the very end of the movie, and Lois actually knew Clark's secret when the film ended, as opposed to Superman 2, where the infamous magic kiss made Lois forget Clark was Superman. The movie echoed some of the elements that were set in the Smallville series, such as Clark's growing pains with his powers and the tensions he had with his dad. Also, in contrast to Superman the movie, which has Clark leave the farm a teenager and suddenly reappear at 30, Man of Steel did some semblance of filling in the gap, showing him to be the unseen angel that has appeared in Smallville and some versions of the comics. A period in the movie which also does a good job of showing him to be a lonely, nomadic character. Man of Steel did inject some refreshing elements into the Superman mythos. We got to see a completely different version of Krypton, contrasting the icy world with crystalline architecture of the Christopher Reeve universe, elements of which bled its way through to Smallville and Superman Returns. This Krypton was more visibly developed, and allowed us to see other species of life, such as Jor-El's flying pet, which reminds me somewhat of the Torok in James Cameron's Avatar. There are some elements that I actually liked better in Man of Steel than in other adaptations. For example, I thought the fortress being a Kryptonian vessel was cooler and more realistic than a massive superstructure that grows out of a small crystal when you throw it in the water. Also, in contrast to Superman the movie, I was glad to see the actual destruction of Krypton more, for lack of a better term, consolidated. Before Man of Steel came out, I read a magazine article that revealed how in the movie, the Kryptonian race was bred through genetic engineering, which determined one's place in society, and Kal-El was born naturally, therefore making his existence illegal. Upon reading this, I was immediately reminded of the movie Gattaca. Released in 1997, the film is centered on a dystopian future in which the main character, who is a natural birth, struggles to achieve his dreams in a society where the best opportunities are reserved for those who are genetically engineered. Seeing Man of Steel, I thought this part of the plot was executed very well and fed into the theme of choosing your own destiny.
What if a child dreamed of becoming something other than what society had intended for him or her? What if a child aspired to something greater?
Russell Crowe's Jor-El had a much stronger presence in this film than the character has ever had in any television or screen adaptation. He got way more action, like when he stole the Codex and battled Zod. I also liked the way his hologram was handled in contrast to Marlon Brando's portrayal. Brando's hologram was more of a pre-programmed response to every situation Jor-El could imagine. Crowe's Jor-El hologram was clearly intelligent, able to identify new individuals and situations, and to assume control of computer access systems, thereby functioning more like Rami in Gene Roddenberry's Andromeda. In contrast to Superman 2, Man of Steel's General Zod was a more well-rounded character. Not to imply anything negative about Stamp's portrayal, but whereas Stamp's Zod was more of an evil tyrant, less bothered by the destruction of Krypton, and more focused on assuming power, Michael Shannon's General Zod was visibly a slave to his own conception, who cared more than anything else about the preservation of his species. Zod and Jor-El had the two sides of the same coin connection that has been echoed in a lot of other characters, including Magneto and Xavier, whereas both of them essentially want the same thing, but have opposing ways of achieving it.
Don't do this, El. The last thing I want is for us to be enemies.
You have abandoned the principles that bound us together. You've taken up the sword against your own people. I will honor the man you once were, Zod. Not this monster you've become.
As far as other supporting characters are concerned, I thought everyone played their part, although I did have a hard time feeling a connection to some of them. Amy Adams' Lois Lane still had the same dangerous curiosity that she has always had, except she was actually able to find Clark's secret out on her own. As far as Lawrence Fishburne's portrayal of Perry White, the only thing I was disappointed by was that he didn't have more of a presence, because I felt like I didn't really have a chance to know him. You saw him interacting with Lois, and you did have that touching scene of him facing death with Jenny. But besides that, you didn't actually see him running the Daily Planet.
I want to know it all, everything. Olsen, I want to see photos of him everywhere. No, I want the photos. Travel. Where did he go? Was he on vacation? If so, where?
Now, since Clark didn't join the planet until the end of the movie, and a very small portion of the film actually took place at the planet, I hope to get to know Fishburne's portrayal better in the sequel. Overall, I thought Man of Steel was very good. It offered a fresh new interpretation while staying true to some of the wider, basic elements of the wider mythology. And while the folks behind Superman the movie raised the bar even then as far as special effects are concerned, the folks behind Man of Steel took full advantage of the technology that was not available when Reeve wore the cape. The biggest criticism I have of Man of Steel as a whole is that I actually wish the film had been longer to counterbalance its fast pace and allow for a more detailed development. Now, it is my understanding that the original cut of the film was over 3 hours long. So Zack Snyder, if you're watching this, extended cut. We want it. Hope you enjoyed part 1. Stay tuned for part 2, in which I will directly take on some of the most debated aspects of the film.